All right. Good evening, everyone. I know it's a super busy time of the year with the holidays and all, and we really appreciate that everyone is taking the time to tune into our very first web3.GSEA online forum. My name is June, an analyst at AppWorks, and I'll be your host for this evening. Now, we've received a lot of interest since releasing our Web3 ecosystem map on our various social media. And to no surprise, really, 2021 was a monumental year for crypto in greater Southeast Asia. I used to always say that it felt like a time machine whenever switching back and forth between the two, but no longer. The growing intersection between the two is self-evident, now with 3 crypto unicorns, at least in this part of the world. Tonight, we've pulled together a truly unique crop of founders to help everyone here, all the stakeholders across greater Southeast Asia, Taiwan, and Southeast Asia to get a sense of the paradigm shift that's currently underway. In terms of tonight's rundown, AppWorks partner Jessica Liu will help kick off the event with opening remarks, followed by our first panel covering NFTs and gaming. The second panel will also cover NFTs, but more specifically on the community building aspect. And for the last panel, I'll be talking about crypto-based finance from decentralized to centralized. And then I'll be wrapping up with closing remarks. So as you can see, we have a very full schedule tonight, so we'll just jump right into it. Over to you, Jessica.
Thanks, June. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jessica. I'm a partner of AppWorks. Welcome, everyone, to the web3.GSEA forum. In this forum, we will have 3 sessions to deep dive into NFT, gaming, CeFi, and DeFi, and the most important thing, the community. As you may know, AppWorks started to recruit blockchain-related startups in our accelerator since 2018. We believe Web3 is the paradigm shift that opens up new disruptive and innovation opportunities, which entrepreneurs shouldn't miss out. In 2021, we saw massive adoption from different blockchain applications. Well, interestingly, under a decentralized world, we observe regional dynamics have evolved differently as their culture, economic, and historical background. So let me share my screen here. So earlier this week, we put together our observation in the region and published this ecosystem map, which highlighted promising Web3 startups from the 6 markets across greater Southeast Asia. Well, in case you haven't read it, here is a TLDR version. First, Indonesia. Crypto investment outstripping public equities. With a huge amount of people on-ramp to crypto, we expect more sophisticated trading and asset management application will mark the next wave of growth. In Philippines, massive user-driven growth. With the success of YGG, we've seen a trend emerging with projects like guild management and FT projects. In Singapore, leveraging the strengths of Asia's financial center, we expect more and more projects in cryptocurrency-related asset securitizations, license, compliance, and also international exchanges. Well, in Taiwan, we identify as a frontrunner from a technical perspective. With an unparalleled engineering tool, we expect to see more notable projects from all aspects. Well, in Thailand, from late mover to a frontrunner, we've seen mature solution for DeFi and cross-chain users. NFT space is something we're excited about as well. Last, in Vietnam, the Axie Infinity effect drives the whole growth of Vietnam GameFi and NFT games. We expect more and more interesting games coming up next year. Well, today we invite Web3 startup representatives from the region who will share their journey and their observation in the industry. Last but not least, if you haven't tried any of this, I encourage you to explore more from their Discord channels, their Twitter or Telegram account to have your skin in the game. But more importantly, if you're a founder working on a startup in blockchain or NFT, apply to AppWorks Accelerator to join the largest Web3 founder community in greater Southeast Asia. Well, back to you, June.
All right. Thank you so much for those opening remarks, Jessica. So earlier this year, a little GameFi project out of Vietnam called Axie Infinity was catapulted into global stardom, truly pioneering this concept that has become known as play to earn. Suddenly, all those hours you spent playing on StarCraft and World of Warcraft could actually amount to some real world value. For this first panel, our moderator, our very own AppWorks analyst, Jack, will be facilitating an in-depth discussion with the founders of two rising GameFi projects in Southeast Asia, Nicole of Duelist King, based out of Vietnam, and Liko of Project Seed, based out of Indonesia. He'll be delving into their take on PTE and what exactly it means for the broader gaming industry. Over to you, Jack.
Good night or good morning, wherever you are. Welcome, welcome. For the first panel tonight, it'll be on the future of play. We've got two very experienced panelists with us today. Unfortunately, our third participant had to drop out last minute, but it'll be a slightly more intimate, but hopefully equally thought-provoking. All right, without further ado, let me kick off the panel by introducing our panelists. I think Liko is having a little bit of internet issues, so I will get to Nicole first. Our first panelist is Nicole Nguyen, who started her journey in blockchain back in 2016 and has since covered multiple disciplines, including doing R&D, media, community, consulting, etc. She's now the co-founder and CMO of Duelist King, a global NFT card game founded by a group of enthusiasts from Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam. And Duelist King is focused on creating transparent, community-owned game, leveraging the power of blockchain. Hi, Nicole. Good evening.
Hi. Thank you very much, Jack, and thanks everyone for having me.
Yeah, no worries at all. So very appreciative for you to dial in today. So I guess while we wait for Liko to dial back in, we can probably kick off the first question to sort of warm up. So I want to ask you, since you got to blockchain relatively early, I think in about 2016, what was your aha moment for blockchain? Can you tell me a little bit about this discovery journey?
So I think, well, back in 16, my life used to be, much more boring than this. So I was actually lured into this space by one of my colleagues. So he kind of, share all of these documents with me about blockchain and technology and the applications. At that point, I was kind of struggling between the concept and perception of Bitcoin and blockchain. But I was, when I bumped into this technology, I was thinking that basically, it has so much more to offer than just a currency that you can store in your wallet or you can trade across border. So, at that point, I joined the company with him, and we were one of the first blockchain R&D companies in Vietnam. And then back at that point, and then I also found a lot of people sharing the same kind of skeptical thoughts about blockchain as I did. So we also started doing a lot of these educational events and community activities, like training and hackathon and events, so as to kind of give people the right perception to start with the technology, because basically they just knew about Bitcoin and, it was not like the right footing to start. So we, fast forward after a couple of years, back in 2018, we got the first mass scale blockchain conference called Vietnam Blockchain Week back in 2018. And that was when, we can officially speak about blockchain on the podium, discuss with the regulators and also, mainstream companies about how we can apply blockchain. And then, fast forward again, before this Duelist King, I used to work at Toko Crypto. So it's currently the largest exchange in Indonesia and was incubated by Binance. And when I bumped into this project with Duelist King with my co-founders who used to work in the same company with me, we just found that, NFT and basically, web3 would be, at this point, at this moment, at this stable year, might show a lot more implications and might be here to stay than just a short-term trend, unlike other, I would say, trends in the past with blockchain. So that's the reason why we got together, and after 7 months, we are now, about to launch a game in March, and it's going to be one of the first like multi-chain NFT card games. And we're very excited to share with you about this and hopefully to have some of you try out our game next year.
Awesome. And we'll also welcome back Liko, the co-founder, the founder of Project Seed, who is also the CEO. Project Seed is a gaming studio based out of Jakarta, Indonesia. That's backed by Hobby Ventures, Solana Capital, Black Edge, and many others. They're on a mission to create a AAA game title using blockchain elements such as governance, GameFi, and NFT for the mobile experience. So prior to Project C, Liko also brings his breadth of experience as a co-founder of Web3 VC called J8 Ventures. They have invested in almost 30 Web3 projects. Hi, Liko. Can you unmute your mic and say hi to the audience as well?
Hi, glad to be here. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, no worries at all. Hope your internet is a little bit more stable. Maybe I'll move on to you now. What was your sort of blockchain discovery journey? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so basically, I joined Bitcoin not that late, but not that early. I joined roughly around 2017, December. I got to experience the right moment, after the all-time high and everything just go kaboom. And then I get the opportunity to be a part of Binance for a while. And that's actually where I learned a lot more than just trading Bitcoin, than just, more about, like the essence of what is blockchain and, how it can actually benefit and bring, the future, like into people's life, and how it liberates people from like the banking system and the traditional finance, and stuff like that. So that's kind of like the when I become serious regarding crypto. I left my job and then started learning and being in crypto full time.
Right. Sounds like a very similar story to Nicole, actually. You both saw so much potential in this technology. That's fantastic. So let me just kick off the panel officially to talk about the future of play. And I'm personally a massive gamer. So I want to know the sort of answer to this as well. I played semi-professional League of Legends to Diamond 1 and to LEM in CSGO. So I spent so much time in gaming, but let's see if we can break this down a little bit. So how do you see the state of the video game industry right now? And sort of in your view, maybe Nicole can go first. What are the major Web3 elements you feel like will affect the current landscape?
I think you are getting the professional very soon, Jack. Maybe you are playing much more games than we do. So I think I'll just be very brief about some of the implications of Web3 that we've seen, and also what we've been trying to achieve with Duelist King as well. So I think that basically a lot of these, I would say, jargons, like the trends of Web3 and metaverse, basically at the end of the day, it's going to be about creating this multi-dimensional interface for users to be able to interact with the games, and basically it kind of eradicates the boundaries, like among all of these roles in the game. So basically right now in this kind of metaverse, you can see that the artist, even the gamers, also the game distributor, basically they can share this whole space, and they can actually also kind of create their own project. Basically, they can also, create or come up with their own innovation like NFTs, or also kind of join in the game, for example. So we think that basically with this kind of Web3, we can see that it basically liberates people to be able to participate in the game, beyond being just a gamer. So for example, some of the problems that we've seen with the traditional games that we're trying to solve with Duelist King is that we want people to be involved in the game as much as possible. So not only as investing in tokens, but also they can vote for the gameplay, they can vote for the game design, and later on, they can actually commercialize the NFTs or the artworks that they have with the game. So we think that basically this kind of, new dimension of Web3 is going to be able to transform the whole gaming industry. So I would say that to a lot of the existing gaming or studios or distributors, I would say that once they step into this Web3, this is going to be an extra dimension that they can look at, an extra revenue stream that they can look at, where they can reach out to the audience, that they haven't been able to tap in. And also from another perspective, for the gaming studios, we think that basically for now, it's going to be much more efficient, much more cost efficient to be able to build a serverless game, with Web3 and blockchain. So basically, people do not have to rely on a game distributor or a centralized platform or a server. But right now, it's going to cost them much less resource to be able to build up all of these games. So what I think with this kind of space is that basically it's going to help people to remove a lot of these barriers before. And also a lot of these indie game studios, indie game developers will be able to step into the ecosystem. And that will create a much more dynamic space, even for gamers or artists or investors in the long run.
Gotcha. Do you feel like I think one part you touch upon, I think would be great to give a little bit of an example. How would an artist that traditionally make assets for games, how do they really benefit on the side? As a participating in the video game industry, how does that work for them?
I think for the artists, they have started as the game enthusiasts, and they will be able to see that how their artworks will be able to plug in the game, how it would be able to play out versus in the balancing of the game, for example. I think basically, of course, they've already got the opportunity before, but right now with Web3 and with these blockchain games, it's going to be so much easier for them to do that. And I think with the social tokens, for example, a lot of these artists, they can basically build these projects around them and commercialize, upon their artworks and even their own branding, to create their own kind of ecosystem. So it's like they can actually, of course, contribute to the existing NFTs or game ecosystem, but they can actually also develop their own kind of thing, around that. And I think that's also, of course, they have a lot of liberty, and they can also do that, thanks to a lot of the resources that we have with blockchain so far in the gaming platform. So I think, that will give them much more opportunities than before.
Gotcha. Liko, what about your thoughts? What do you think? Web3 elements? What major Web3 elements will change sort of the video game industry that exists right now?
I think not only Web3, but then I think the whole blockchain stuff can actually reform like a lot of things. Like this is something that we discovered during our journey as building Project Seed. Like for example, brand placement. Brand placement is very standard, right? And normally in the traditional space, people pay a lot of money for brand placement, and that benefits the gaming company. But then it is a cost for the brands that are actually putting their brands into the game, right? And not only games like movies and stuff like that, but then in using NFT, with the NFT, we can actually explore a new kind of brand placement. We are talking to several brands, and we have formed a partnership with several brands to put their brands into our game without putting any cost to them. So this will actually opens up a huge possibility for startups or like a new company that wants to put brands that have a community in the local communities, and they want to explore like going international or going into in the region. They can actually explore this NFT and leveraging the communities that we have in the gaming space, in the crypto blockchain gaming space, and they can actually leverage on that and get an exposure that they never actually experienced in the normal way, and it practically cost them zero money. And they can actually have their NFTs, they can actually do the fundraising, we can help them with the fundraising, and they can put their brands into our platform as well. So I think this is one of the areas that the Web3 and the blockchain can actually help and advance in terms of brand placement, and the business side.
That kind of sounds like I will eventually be able to hold a sword sponsored by Pepsi or Shield sponsored by Netflix.
Right. That is something that is pretty fun. We actually we announced a partnership with local one of the prominent local nationalist brand for clothing, and we are creating a special sets for them. And not only with the brands like clothing, I mean, like the possibilities are endless. not only normally people can like brand placement consists of like cars, watches, like jewelry, like, and some, not many items can actually be there. And people are limiting themselves to like, hey, can you put shoes or clothing brands into the game? Why not? Like, and not only the brands and the like the limitless options of brands, but then also the branding of indie artists, or like like even artists that they want to come in, and they can actually still leverage this, and this is for their branding as well.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of the one of the points that we discussed in the beginning about interoperability. So I think it also means about, the opportunity does not show up when you don't know that it's there. So,
right.
So basically right now we can see that there's this opportunity to do this interoperability between games, between brands as well, between different, different technologies. So I think we haven't mentioned about the adjacent technology like AR and VR that can definitely converge with blockchain, and other technologies if you want to create this whole metaverse space. So I think that's definitely one of the beauties of Web3 when we think about how to use that for games.
Gotcha. I think Liko, you also touch on quite an interesting I guess stakeholder position with this to change, which is eventually is the fundraising part you mentioned. Now that they can easily invite brands to come in and sell NFTs as part of the fundraising process. So this is what I'm touching about. How do you see fundraising for game studios change moving into the future?
I think for now, we also kind of briefly discussed about this with Liko in the beginning, that we are having more mainstream major game studios joining the scene right now. So I think the landscape is going to change very soon. So before I was thinking that, a lot of these games or NFT games, they have been able to raise the funds even before they've got the game out, and basically, of course, token investment is the easier way for them to be able to get some kind of pre-seeding or seed investment for the project. But for now, of course, I think that with the NFT scene booming, of course, a lot of these games, they are thinking about different ways to do fundraising. So of course they can do NFT sales, they can definitely do some kind of early bird kind of programs or campaigns to promote people to invest early in their games or, buy the game assets. Even for us, so for now, just with the game, of course, we are doing the token investment, but later on, once we have been able to formulate the platform that we are using, so actually because we are trying to integrate a lot of these solutions beyond tokenization. So with our game, we are thinking about doing, decentralized random number generator, which is also very interesting, to create this randomness in game reward and asset distribution. We also want to think about all of these serverless infrastructure for games to be able to, for game developers to build their games. So we, of course, are thinking about, getting in or reaching out to some of these major game studios as well, in terms of partnership and also in terms of fundraising, so that we would have more stakeholders, in the scene. So I think that basically moving forward, I think next year, as Liko mentioned, it's going to be very competitive, and it's going to get maybe less easy to raise the fund. But I think the innovation is going to be in how we're going to be able to raise the fund and who's going to be the investors next year.
Yeah. So one question I've always sort of had in mind when we come across different GameFi projects is the balance between raising versus product development. Some teams raise way before launch. Some teams raise 2 or 3 rounds before launching. So I'd love to know how you two approach this thinking. So when do you think is appropriate, or how do you approach your strategy into fundraising for your game, or how do you position the public round so it's the most appropriate to go to the market?
Well, it's quite a tricky question, to ask, and like this is very fun because fundraising and product development is always chicken and egg. I believe this is like, how do you say, a public secret. People assume that products are appearing out of thin air, and this is not the case. Developers need money. Developers need food. I mean, like, just to say it in a blunt way, we are not eating the investors' money or whatever, but then hiring people takes money. The employees are needing food. Otherwise, they won't work for us, right, Nicole? So I think it depends on the situation. I think this will depends really on each project. Some projects are blessed with enough developers on board as a part of their core team that they don't have to rely on hiring. But then there are some projects that are actually having, and they have money to sustain themselves, right? And or maybe they don't have the core developers, but then they have the money to actually develop the game. So for those people, I think if they want to fundraise late in the game, in the development, I think that's fine. For us, Project Seed, we do have we are blessed to have startup funds by our team, and then we use the money for our hiring, our team, and processes. That's like our startup capital. And
how would you position the public round then, in your perspective? Whether it's to incentivize more players, more marketing resources, how would you position that in terms of launching your game? What would you tell the founders?
For us, fundraising, public sale, we just position them to make sure that we can deliver the product earlier than expected, faster than we promised them. That's actually the goal. And because this is also one thing, projects cannot really fundraise a lot of money. But then, there are only some handful of money that you can use. So basically this fundraising will give us an additional boost. The public sale will give us an additional boost for us to actually expedite and, like fasten the whole development processes. And I think with this, we are in Project Seed, we are actually able to deliver the product like 2-3 months earlier than expected. But of course, there are also pros and cons. Some people wants to have the token launch on public sale before the right before the game has launched, to make sure that the price doesn't dump so much and you have the utilities. But then again, not many projects are actually blessed with that kind of money, right? So I think that really depends on the budgeting and stuff like that. But then because we have to think about listing fee, we have to think about the marketing fee, we have to think about the partnership fee. Partnership with crypto scene is almost free, right? I mean, like, we just co-market and stuff like that, right? But then partnership with the traditional people, they need traditional money, we pay them. So especially us, the new kids on the block, they want to see our money. And that's, one thing that people might not know. And we are in talk with several traditional companies that are actually eager to work with us. But then, due to the limitation of the funding that we have and stuff like that, it's a bit, have to say on hold. But then we are exploring ways, like, for example, NFTs and stuff like that, for us to be able to move forward with them. That's kind of like the thing with the fundraising, in my opinion.
Gotcha. Thanks for sharing. I want to move on a little bit and talk about the other side of play, which is the people who are playing. Liko or Nicole, can you give us a little bit more color on who are these players, where are they coming from, and what do they care about? And in your mind, how do they choose which game to play? What do you think goes through their decision process? Maybe Nicole, you can kick.
I think we also briefly talk about this in the beginning, is that the demographics is pretty diverse with game as well, and if we are also targeting the low-hanging fruits like crypto users, of course, Basically you just it's very difficult, just to kind of picture a certain demographic of the gamers at the moment, because actually, of course, with a lot of these early games, when the game is not out yet, I think the more mostly the people who are interested in the games would be like crypto users and crypto enthusiasts. So I think that play to earn definitely has played a role in getting us the quantity and the awareness that we need to have the kind of the starting audience, the audience that can support the games in the early days. Like when we think about the game in the long run, of course, we need to think about more traditional gamers, especially when you talk about specific genres. Like with us, we are targeting card gamers, for example, so that they will be able to also try out the game and, of course, look at the game beyond token investment. So I would say that for us right now, even though we are based in Vietnam, but we are not just looking in Vietnam. Actually, Southeast Asia is a very interesting market that we're still targeting, but also on the West Asia side. So, we also have interest from India, Bangladesh, and, those kind of early markets where the guilds are still not there. So, of course, we are looking, at different partners in that kind of area, and also South America, where we can see that basically a lot of these new countries like Venezuela, for example, they're also trying to kind of compete with, let's say, the Philippines or other emerging markets in terms of adopting or joining the play to earn kind of trend. So I think basically at the moment we are still trying to be very global, but then when it comes to some specific markets where we have a partner, just to help us with the local kind of marketing. And for example, right now we're targeting more like Vietnam and so Philippines, of course, Indonesia as well, since we are having like an increasing interest and also a lot of these guilds and partners out there. So we're trying to be very specific, in that sense, trying to be local where we can. But in the long run, I think the game would be on how to reach out to the mainstream gamers, especially without games to listing.
Do you feel like you have to break this down? It sounds like you're breaking this down to very particular phases, right? Maybe stage one, it's more about the crypto users. Stage two, more about the maybe people who are willing to explore. And then stage three, it sounds like you're preparing for the main sort of the main kind of gamers. Is that how you're seeing this at the moment? And that's how you're approaching this?
We're trying to come up with like a funnel for like just to get and to reach out to the real gamers at the end. Of course, we still need the support of these, I would say, crypto users, because of course they help create the noise, the awareness. Of course, they also put in the money, which is very important in the beginning. But later on, of course, especially with our game, because we're trying to be as close to a traditional game as possible. So that's why, because due to our approach, we would need to really kind of drill down and find the real gamers at the end, because they would be the real advocates and the real paying customers for our game.
Sure. How about you, Liko? What do you think your players care about, or how do you think they choose the game they play?
What our players care about? Making money. I mean, like, okay, so this is actually a very interesting thing. Sorry for being honest, but then this is something that we are trying to solve. Like in the current blockchain gaming industry, if we are honest with ourselves, right, we are actually 20 years or maybe 10, 20 years before the traditional gaming companies. The qualities are quite low compared to Genshin Impact, Diablo, or whatever, right? Let's just face it. That's a brutal truth that we have to understand, right? So, and one thing that as we dive into Project Seed more and as we learn about the space more, one element that is missing inside blockchain game, and that is fun. Most of the blockchain game are focused on making money. And that is not game supposed to be. Games are supposed to be fun. Games are classified as an entertainment. It's not work. So people make it work. Like, okay, you can have fun and you can earn money by being a professional gamer. That's fine. That's normal. And People have hobbies like that. It's fine. But then people are playing blockchain games because they can earn money, a lot of money, and they can earn more than normal wages. So in Project Seed, and this is a mission that we are trying to overcome as well, is to actually reintroduce the fun back into the game. Like this is actually we are taking this too hard because for example, we just released our early test registration. Actually, hundreds or thousands of people actually signing up for testing the early demo. This early demo, we designed it to not have any blockchain interactions. Why? Because we want to make sure, and we want to show to the user, to our players, that hey, this game is fun. This is not just your usual play to earn, like the boring game, quote unquote.
Do you feel like if the funness takes more time than if in comparison to how quick they can earn in other games, they're less fun? Which game do you think they will play right now?
So depends on the market that you're looking at. Okay, let's say you are earning an X amount of money, or like 3X the amount of money you play from our game, and then you play games A, and then you can earn 3X the money that you can earn in Project Seed. But then we want to see how long can people actually play, and we have to know that, we have to assume, we have to understand that the tokens are not free to print, right? The tokens are going to be inflated as going along with the number of user growth, and like the amount of active users. The more you have the user, the more inflated it will be. Once it reaches a certain point, the token value will not be valuable because there are too much people playing the game for the money. That's when people will actually, let's say, we need a fun game that we can play, and a sustainable game that we can play. Not only that we are having fun like before, but then, for example, you do play Mobile Legends without having to care about the earning that you are receiving from the game, right? You're not receiving anything.
Correct. I just play for my status.
Right. And then so we are giving that back in addition of the money that you can earn. You can play the games for hours and hours without even worrying about, and we are building it on the mobile, right? You can play it in the bus, you can play it in the poo-poo time, you can play it in the bedroom, you can play it, anywhere you want. So this is we are trying to reintroduce the fun back into the game for the community, and I believe in the long run, this is going to be what people are going after.
Gotcha. I totally agree with that as well. I can't wait for.
If I might chime in, Jack. So I think the thing about the fun that Liko mentioned, it's not just about the fun with the token or earning. Actually, for us, we think that with blockchain, there's so much more other kind of values that we can think about. So, for example, for our game, we do advocate this, like, let's say, fairness, randomness, involvement of people in designing the game, for example. So it's we just don't need to write on the NFT hype, or think about how to make the most money out of playing. But then basically, if you think about having this kind of blockchain element and blockchain solutions, just to integrate in the game, you don't have to bring, of course, your game onto blockchain, especially with mainstream game studios. But then if you can kind of integrate some of these solutions, creating a more fun, more engaging, more ownership for the users and the gamers, I think that in the end would definitely be much more valuable than just thinking about play to earn.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thanks for adding that second point there. And Nicole, since you're talking now, just before you answer that, you mentioned one word multiple times that I think it's on everybody's mind is guilds. Guilds. So I guess I would love to break that down a little bit more as well. We all know one of the biggest driving forces right now to these games are guilds, right? So what they are is a collective of players essentially banding together, essentially with either playing together to earn quicker or earn more or more efficiently, I think. So I guess as game makers, how do you really see the relationship and the role the guilds play with you guys? Are they all upsides or are there some downsides to partnering with guilds too?
Arna should be here, bro.
Liko, are you the more relevant person to talk about this?
No. You can go ahead first.
Okay. I'll just
later.
maybe
Hopefully I'm
I'll
not
just
digging a
touch on the
hole for
upside.
you
Yeah,
guys.
I'll just touch on the upside, and then I'll leave Liko with the downside. Yeah. So I think with the guilds, basically I think it's not new to gamers. Of course, you have traditional gaming guilds, right? And when we have this kind of crypto gaming guilds, I think there's something more that kind of get people together is about the incentives and about, of course, early access to a lot of these games, the opportunity to try out with a lot of these games, and then you will be able to kind of interact with the game distributors and the gamers, in a much more close circle than compared with the traditional kind of gaming guilds. So I think that a lot of these guilds have popped up in Southeast Asia mostly, if I'm not mistaken, so far. Of course, because we have all of these games coming out, and we also plan to work with some of these guilds in the future, because basically I think that's also a very effective way to get in touch with the communities, especially the local communities, and get the feedback for the games. And then because we do in Southeast Asia, for example, I think that the locality and the local mindset is very important when you want to work with these markets. So I think that's definitely one of the more prevalent way for us to form partnership and also to expand our game in Southeast Asia. So now over to Mr. Liko for the downside.
So hypothetically speaking, or however you take it, in an alternate metaverse, what could be the downsides working with guilds?
Well, guilds will be, as Liko mentioned earlier, it's going to be like the crypto guilds and then the traditional guilds, right? Regarding the traditional guilds or maybe the esport teams, it's similar. I would say that people in the traditional space, when they are actually trying out our games right now, in the current blockchain gaming space, I wouldn't even think that they will be joining. I mean, like, because it's just focusing on, I mean, like, the quality that we create our game with the limited amount of money that we have will not be able to deliver the game that they used to play, right? I mean, like, we cannot compare our game to Diablo or League of Legends or I suddenly forgot the MiHoYo game. What is that? The very famous game. Well, it cost them tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't. The downside is that they will say that our game sucks. I think that's the downside. Most of the participation of the guilds will definitely bring a positive vibe, especially the crypto guilds, to the community. We have also been reaching out to a lot of guilds traditionally and also in the crypto space. We are trying to give them the demo in the traditional space, in the traditional guilds as well. Looking at their response, we will know. But then most of the how do you say, the confidence that we have right now, if they are to try the games in the blockchain gaming space right now, I don't think they will be playing, and that's actually the downside that I see. That's why earlier I said, like, 2022 and 2023 will be a very fun year, and moving forward, GameFi will really be fun because more games are going to be out, more games that have more elements and exploring more genres, more items will be out, and I believe that one of those games, hopefully including Outland Odyssey, our game, will be able to, and of course, Niko's game will be able to pique their interest, and have them play the games, and make the blockchain gaming ecosystem more vibrant, and more fun, more people. The more the merrier, right?
Gotcha. What if the crypto gaming guilds can proactively partner with these gaming guilds plus traditional gaming guilds for us? I mean, that would help kind of generate much more value and, kind of increase the market cap of these guilds, crypto guilds, than right now. as far as I see.
Gotcha. I think we only have a few minutes left for this panel. So since Liko, you touched upon how 2022 will be very interesting. So I guess in your opinion, what do you think will be the strongest tailwind in the space in play to earn? Is it going to be more guilds, more tools, more games themselves, or is it going to be a lot of service for these players, these new wallets? Now they are active and they have a lot of crypto asset in them. What is it going to be?
Well, we discussed, right? Nicole and us and Project Seed, we are on the same batch, right? We are the October November batch, right? Next year will be fun in 2023. Why? Because right now the hype that is happening outside is actually just the metaverse and the NFTs, and GameFi hasn't started yet. Guilds are popping out, but then most of the games are not out yet. Those games that are actually can be classified as the next generation or the 2.0 GameFi is not out yet. It's still under development, including ours, including Nicole's. And next year will be fun because most of these games are going to be out, and we will know who will be able to deliver and who will not, who doesn't deliver and who will deliver. And one of those games that are going to be delivered will actually be that can replace that can set the trend for the GameFi movement in the future. In the next 2 or 5 years in the future.
Gotcha. Nicole, how about you? What do you think will be the tailwind for 2022?
I was waiting for Liko to say that he expects better games, with better experiences. I think that's what he's been kind of trying to feed back to all of our current existing blockchain games. So I think for me, mostly, I think Liko has covered most of the main points about the market. But I think for myself, I guess maybe it's gonna go back to the gamer's experience. So right now, of course, the gameplay is not up to the kind of the mainstream level. I think with the design as well, and also a lot of these, I would say, even the wallets or even the platforms, to onboard the newbies at the moment, it's still very confusing. Still very mind-boggling for a lot of these mainstream gamers. So I think I would hope that by next year, of course, we would have better games targeting more about the game experience, of course. But at the same time, I think there would be a lot of these bridge solutions or infrastructures that would help us to onboard, the gamers, like the real gamers, in a more efficient way.
Right. Gotcha. Understood. So 2022, look out for better games, more players, and better experience.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank you both, Nicole and Liko, for joining us today. Really appreciate your insights and willingness to share your firsthand knowledge in the space. All right. So audience, that will be all from this panel tonight. And I will pass the mic back to my colleague, June. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, guys. Night.
Thank you. Night.
Thank you, Jack, and our panelists, Nicole and Liko, for that very illuminating discussion on all things GameFi. Better experiences, better tools. GameFi 2.0. It sounds like 2022 will be the time to shine for NFT and blockchain gaming. So on the other side of that equation is community. Now, if you're from the traditional Web2 world, you often talk about 1,000 true fans. This is a concept that isn't even more pronounced in the Web3 world, really driven by this concept of collective ownership, where fans are not only users, but also owners via tokens. Now, these fans all serve as potential ambassadors and promoters of your projects. But getting them on board in the first place and keeping them engaged really requires a whole lot of community building. Shedding light on this next topic, our next panel, moderated by Alan Sang, who is the creator of the NFT collection Dark Zodiac, will be speaking with David of Bluetext, based out of Taiwan, Tammy of Numbers Protocol, also based out of Taiwan, and Peter of Blockchain Space, based out of Philippines. Over to you, Alan.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this panel. Really happy to speak with this panel today about NFTs as well as communities. So I'm sure like the panelists has a lot to share about community building, especially in the NFT space. But first, let's do a quick introduction. David would like to go first. Tell us a bit more about your background as well as your company.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. So hello, everyone. My name is David. I'm co-founder of Lutex. And Lutex is founded since 2018. We started building NFT solutions, NFT marketplace back then. And we were highly inspired by CryptoKitties and think that there will be a lot of blockchain adoption in game space. So we did a lot of research on the virtual asset and how to put things on blockchain and make it more liquid and let the gamers feel more freely to trade their in-game item. So we did a lot of discussion with many traditional gaming studio back then, but there's no like best case or very good example for them to like take this risk. And also back then, the blockchain technology are not efficient enough. There are not layer 2, there are only Ethereum and some new blockchain are all in development. And so for these 3 years, we see a lot of progress on blockchain space that every game studio is testing this new idea, and our NFT marketplace has a lot of trading volume comes from game companies and the gamers. So we think it's very exciting like to share more about the NFT economic. And we see a lot of trend also comes from like NFT art and collectibles and also fashion, and until a lot of NFT utilities, until now NFT gaming. We have so much to share. So I think that's all about us.
All right, awesome. Tammy, would like to go next? Give us a quick introduction about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, sure. I'm Tammy. Hello, everyone. And I'm the founder of Numbers Protocol. Numbers Protocol is a decentralized photo network built for Web 3.0 to address core issues in the digital media space, namely ownership, copyright, provenance, ecosystem, and accessibility. So digital assets such as images and videos are our main focus. We work with projects who need NFTs and use NFTs and also marketplaces such as NFT Trade, Binance Feature, and help them to authenticate, verify NFTs so NFTs can bring more values.
Awesome. Last but not least, we have Peter. Peter, tell us more about yourself as well as your company.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Thanks for having me here, Alan, and AppWorks. So my name is Peter, founder of Blockchain Space, originally based out of the Philippines, but now I guess you can say we're a decentralized company running out the metaverse. But so our background, actually, Blockchain Space used to be a physical education hub based in the Philippines. We used to focus on kind of bringing tech to regular people, getting more people involved in kind of DeFi, wallets, making trades, and understanding kind of blockchain tech in general. Then as of last year, being in the heart of where kind of Axie Infinity exploded, we saw kind of this influx of regular people suddenly adopting blockchain technology to get into the game space. And this really drove massive adoption kind of not only in just Ethereum, but also in kind of like the general crypto space. And so it was kind of a no turning back moment for us where we decided, blockchain games are really going to be, or NFT games are going to be the driving force of crypto adoption. And so we started up our own guild back in November last year, or actually September, but officially launched in November. And we're one of the very early kind of like Axie community members. We basically started up our own scholarship program and started building some tooling. right? And based on this tooling, what we realized is there were a lot of pain points in kind of running these scholarship programs, and decided we want to actually focus on kind of making these tools more scalable and more accessible to everyone, right? And so one trend that we noticed is that guilds have basically been driving a lot of play to earn adoption, and we basically wanted to be able to support these guilds to be able to scale. And so we started building a lot of infrastructure tools like CRM solutions, ERP solutions, data insight reports, to be able to support them, to be able to understand the market better and to make better informed decisions.
It's awesome, especially like you guys are really early in the Axie Infinity space. That's awesome. I think let's kick this going. 2021 was definitely a really big year for NFTs. From people Nifty Gateway in January to BAYC in April, and so many like big projects came out along the way throughout the year. And now we have come to the end of 2021 with Nike and Adidas joining the NFT space as well. Like David, what do you think about like the current NFT space right now?
Yeah, it's definitely very exciting. This year is definitely a huge year for NFTs. So if you like talk to someone that Nike will do NFT in the end of this year, people say it will be crazy because there's so many uncertainties there. But we see a lot of more mainstream brands or IPs or more traditional gamers are all research in this space and do a lot of cross collaboration. So we definitely think it's a best time to like explain NFTs to the market or do something NFT related in your business.
Right. What do you think, Peter?
So I paid I paid less attention to the general NFT market, but more to kind of yield-bearing NFTs. And I think that's very much in line with kind of like the GameFi space that we're kind of operating in. And so what we're seeing is that, you know, especially because my focus is really on guilds, right? That, you know, these guilds are starting to adopt more yield-bearing NFTs, like things like land assets, which you can rent out, or, you know, Axie teams, which you can let other people play with and then take commissions at the end of the month, right? And there generally are quite a number of like yield-bearing NFTs that are coming out at the moment. And I think that, you know, we're basically at the start of kind of seeing like the new models that how you can generate yield, you know, with NFTs. And so for me, I think that's kind of like going to be a long path of like evolution, where we see like multiple different business models come out, and some will fail and some will be fantastic.
Oh, that's so interesting. Actually, I want to dig a little bit deeper about the insight. The entire concept of yield-bearing assets, of course, it went through a lot of evolution within a very short period of time. Peter, what do you think like will be the major kind of evolution and growth trends that you foresee that will happen in 2022?
Yeah, so I mean, again, I have a bias. So you know, I seen like kind of mass adoption of crypto coming through, you know, the GameFi space, right? So I do think that games are going to do very well in the coming years, and I think we haven't really scratched the surface in terms of, you know, game adoption, right? So I think Axie's been leading this space, rightfully so. I mean, like they have learned a lot over the last few years, and, you know, they managed to like tweak a lot of like either the gameplay or like crypto tokenomics, right? To be able to create something that was scalable and that basically motivated their community to want to, you know, share it and get involved, right? So I think these games are basically going to dominate probably the crypto space in at least for the coming year, probably 2 years. You know, the number of games that we've seen kind of like emerging just from like private sales alone, right, indicates there's got to be at least like 100 games probably popping out in like the next year or two. right? And if Axie was just number one with 3 million players, and then you have 100 more, then you can imagine that quite a lot of adoption is probably going to come through these channels.
Awesome. Tammy, why don't you share with us your thoughts about the NFT space right now?
Sure. So I think to me, or to Numbers Protocol, I think authenticity is definitely, we believe, is the biggest trend. And with the NFT boom this year, and as more and more mainstream brands start adopting it, and also as more and more people who were probably previous not in the crypto space, but now they're attracted by the NFT, and then we start seeing a lot of problems. So for example, like there are a lot of NFT frauds, and there are a lot of people taking the others' creations to the NFT space and then making the fake NFTs. And we believe that so if so echo what Peter said, we also believe that like in a lot of areas such as games and also what David just mentioned about mainstream brands, I think there will be more and more NFTs use cases everywhere. We believe that this trend will continue, but since people expect NFT will aggregate values, and if you cannot authenticate, and if you cannot tell which one is good, which one is bad, which one is true, which is not, and then it will be very challenging to really aggregate the values and continues this trend. So I think we believe that in the future of Web3 and Metaverse, and authenticity is going to be the trend, and only when the authenticity can be assured and a healthier market can be built. And I think as NFT industry is getting more and more mature, so this is the trend we see.
Wow, that's good insights. As you guys have mentioned, like the NFT space is gonna get more and more crowded in the next year. David, what do you think? Like, is there collectors fatigue currently in the NFT space among collectors or among gamers because they are so limited in terms of like attention span and in terms of user numbers? Do you see right now at this point in time, is there like a collector's fatigue?
Yeah, I do believe so. So there's a lot of profile pictures since like August. I think starting from like even more earlier. There's so many profile picture projects that apply for listing on our NFT marketplace. There's so much that we need to screening some of them out because the quality is not good enough, and some projects are not. They're all like anon project. You don't know the founders. You don't know the IP is from. You didn't know that is the graphics from their IPs or not. So I think still a lot of good example like the Bored Ape or Cool Cats, and after that, I think people have more tired of like there are too many projects and you cannot tell the quality of or what's their roadmap and are they authentic to execute the roadmap. So I think it definitely have, but I think that for the NFT space in general, there's still so many things happening, like a new creator economics or like a new way to do like social network. So there's still a lot of opportunity and new ways to use the NFTs. So I think for the only collectors with no utility, I think people are already tired with it. But there are more looking to more utilities and more community features on the NFTs. Yeah.
Because just myself, I'm first and foremost. I tell everyone that first and foremost, I'm an NFT collector, then a creator, and there's just so many projects at the moment in the market, and my Discord server, like my Discord app, is buzzing all the time. It's so hard to keep track of everything. So I do really feel that, like, I agree with you. There's like some like collectors fatigue right now. So for David, like with the rapid growth and evolution in the NFT space, how big of a role does community building play in such projects right now?
Yeah, it's super important. I think not only NFT projects, I think so for every like internet services need to learn a little bit from the community building, because more community building that around the users that they can like answer a lot of questions between themselves, and they also could advise a more clear and more better roadmap to the project owner itself. So building community is definitely very, very important to any NFT projects.
What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, I was actually thinking there's different ways to interact with community. Actually, there's something that we've been actually toying with this year under one of our academy banners, which is in the Sandbox metaverse, right? So we actually built a land which actually represents the Philippines. It's called Pinasining, which is it means Philippines art. Right. And so we actually got the Philippines community to contribute basically all the different assets on this piece of land. Now, what is the purpose? Now, because of COVID and basically heightened restrictions for travel, right? A lot of people weren't actually able to travel into the Philippines. And so what we did is we created this Philippines equivalent, like in this digital land. And we started creating like monuments, right? So like in Manila, you can go visit this. Or if you go to Palawan, right, then you can visit like the underwater river, right? And then if you go down to Davao, then you can go visit Manny Pacquiao, right? So actually what we started to do is like it became a very important like community building I guess like exercise, which was firstly getting more people to become kind of Web3 native and start using their digital skills to be able to actually create Web3 native kind of assets, right? And then the other part was they feel very proud of what they're creating, right? And we're actually looking to partner with the Department of Tourism to actually use this land as basically the means to visit the Philippines from basically anywhere in the world without ever having to actually travel, right? So it's such a cool way to basically discover the Philippines, right? By actually going into the metaverse, right? And then, and it really gives, digital natives like Filipinos, the people that have been contributing towards this ownership, right? And so I think that's been really key for NFTs and Web3. That it gives you basically this sense of like ownership, like I built that and someone else is using it, and someone else is trading it, and I think that part has become more and more important.
Yeah, I think like what you guys mentioned, like I totally agree, right? Because I come from a Web2 kind of a tech background, and then now I'm in Web3. I think one of the key difference that I observe would be that Web3 companies definitely put like community building at like the forefront, and they see them as community, not as customers, because it's like a super like collaborative effort. Like for each of your companies right now, maybe we start with Peter first. How do you approach like building a community? I'm pretty sure you guys started from somewhere. How was the approach like?
Yeah, so for us, right, I guess like part of it was organic. So I mean, we were building kind of tool sets, right? And so community for us is like, because if we're providing tools, then we're more B2B, right? So like the end customer is more like a business as opposed to like a retail customer, right? So our relationship was more whoever is using the tools, let's make them really valuable. Let's interact with those people. So we actually have like for our particular business, it's not like a massive community of users, let's say, right, for the tools. But then let's say I think we've got around 4,000 guilds today that are basically using our tools, and so that in crypto that's not considered like a huge number. Right. But then since we recently did our IDO as well, we actually took on like a new community, right? And that's something that we've kind of been learning about in the last couple of weeks is like, all these people that have now learned about, guild infrastructure and how to support the play to earn community. They've come in through buying our token, right? So they've actually become like a lot of these people are now token holders. Right. And these are people that we value just as much as like the people that use our tools. Right. And so they're kind of like a very different community. Right. so there's different ways, I guess, like to build community. You can have it through tool provision, you can have it through token ownership, right? And and I guess like each of these are forming like different types of communities, and very much for our token holder community, right? This one is a lot more international, and it's like spanning a lot more of the world than previously the people that were using our tools, right? So the people that were using our tools might have been kind of like mainly focused in Asia region, right, and some in South America, right? But now we're seeing like token holders come from like Turkey, Vietnam, Korea, some people in France, right? Some people in South America, right? So yeah, it's basically, I guess, like different ways to kind of build community. And I guess, yeah, it comes through different methods.
For Tammy, how do you like approach community building for Numbers Protocol in the very beginning?
Yeah, sure. So I think one thing I would like to echo, you just mentioned the community and customers are very different. So I also found that this is really key when you're discussing with the community for a lot of topics. So I observed that there are a lot of Telegram channels, and where the project will try to talk to the community in the way that is more like a customer service. So it's more like, okay, you have a problem, and then so you can DM me, and then I can help you to solve that. So it becomes a customer service channel. But we try not to go in that way. We actually try to talk to the community. We try to engage with them, and then we set something that they can expect. So for example, like every Friday, we will send a summary email of the week, and then we will tell them goodbye. We are going to have a weekend. So we're just like normal people in the community. And then also we listen to them. And so we, for example, like we basically let the community to decide everything. So such as governance, token utility, and in the future, it will be more such as token burning and etc. So we will propose an idea, and then we let the community to discuss. And then, so for example, like for the staking, so we will stake for the NFT governance, and then there will be some community member coming to say, that's too expensive, the staking amount is too big. It will be this like communication. But I think all the voices are very important, because the nature of Web3 companies is to build a project with the community. And to me, I think it's really, I would say it's much easier said than done, because including the community to the product development is really not easy. Every company has your own development process, and how can you include the community and let them become one of the stakeholders? And then at the same time, you also need to distinguish who are the real users, who just want to fund your project, something like that. So I think, but it's interesting and also challenging. So yeah, so I think we just enjoy it. So that's how we build the community.
Yeah. Because I think the implication behind community versus customers is that the customers are always the consumers, right? But the community members can both be the consumers as well as the providers for your services. So they could be helping like the other community members get around. They could be personally providing certain services, like staking and or renting out their GameFi assets. So I think that's one of the key difference that I observed so far. We don't have much time left, but I'm just gonna like shoot one more question, and we'll probably have Tammy go first. How do you think the Web3 communities will continue to evolve in the next 2 years? What do you think will happen? What should the audience today be prepared for in the next 2 years? How can GameFi and NFT projects continue to fight for attention?
Yeah, I think for the next 2 years, to me, I think it will be to start integrating the voice from the community to your project building. So it's not just talking to the community, not just having the engagement and sending some social posts or airdrop. I think the time for those are already past. So in the next 2 years, I think project, especially Web3 projects, you need to think the real integration to integrate their voice into your project. So by saying that, I mean, for example, how can you so integrate the feedback from the community and then create a flow where their voice can be really sent to your development team, and then how do you create that development cycle where their voice can really be delivered, and then let them see the real result in your project. Or for example, like recently we have a new feature of our app. So we actually try to deliver the app at its alpha stage, and then we just add a community if anyone want to participate in the alpha testing. So this kind of development process and the real integration is something I think every Web3 project need to think about for the next 2 years.
Nice. David, what do you think in the next 2 years the Web3 community will evolve, and what should we look out for?
Yeah, I think the line between Web2 and Web3 will be more blurred. That no NFT works in some product or service, but it's like made by blockchain technology. And also, if you are playing a game, it's just a game. So it's not a blockchain game, but your asset is freely to trade. So I guess there's no much difference than before, but I also wanted to echo back to the Tammy said that community building is not customer service anymore, and we try to like have a platform, like do more like crossovers with project between projects, because we can like host the ANA on our Discord very fast. But before we might arrange a online talk, ANA fireside chat talk for more longer term. So I think more faster responsive to the community, it will be a trend for the next 2 years.
Nice. And for Peter, how do you think like GameFi companies and guilds can continue to fight for attention for new and existing gamers?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
Within the next 2 years, how can GameFi projects as well as guilds continue to fight for attention for new gamers?
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I guess it comes down to like, sorry, wow. Yeah, good question. So I mean, the games, obviously they need to build support systems for the guilds as well. So I mean, if you look at basically the guild space and their contribution towards the growth of play to earn, right? I think they've been one of the main contributors. Like I think we were speaking about it earlier, Alan, right? That your average guild is not kind of what is perceived out there in public, right? A lot of people, the guilds that make a lot of noise are usually the really well-funded, very well-backed, very large guilds, right? But the actual typical guild is actually much smaller, like a micro guild. And they only have about, let's say, 300 people in their community, and they only manage very few accounts, like 9 to 10 accounts, right? So it's really like your average guild is actually your micro entrepreneur, right? And so these people are the ones that actually are investing into your game, right? So actually, we've seen like some games that have just integrated, guild features straight into their UI, right? You can have a look at a game called PegAxi, right? PegAxi has made it really big. They basically integrated what we know as like the scholarship model into PegAxi's actual UI. Now that's a way for games and guilds to automatically synergize, right? As soon as like guilds can understand that, oh, okay, I can load my assets safely, and other people can play with it, and then get a return. Then this game is going to be very attractive. Then the last point that you need to think about is just kind of what are the returns. So like, how can I maintain like token price? Am I providing like a good ROI, for these people that are getting involved right now? Now, there is a ton of those people that are, so guilds are going to be seeking ROI across the metaverse, right? They're going to be looking at different yield-bearing projects and thinking about, okay, well, how is this one perform against this one versus this one? And so I think, the game really need to speak to the guilds and think about kind of like, okay, well, if you bring in your community, how should I design my game around that? Right. So I think there's going to be a lot of synergy around that. Right.
Oh, okay. That's a really good insight. Yeah. So I think that's all the time we have today. I thank AppWorks for organizing this this panel discussion about NFTs and communities, and I thank my fellow panelists. Thanks, Peter, David, and Tammy, for your time. And I'll hand it back to AppWorks.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Alan, and our panelists, David, Tammy, and Peter, for sharing your thoughts on the value of community, especially when it comes to building up and ensuring the success of an NFT project. Now, gaming and entertainment aren't the only applications of crypto that have been bursting at the seams. Before JPEG summer this year was DeFi summer last year in 2020. Crypto-based finance is an interesting value proposition, but where exactly do you draw the line between centralized and decentralized finance? To help shed light on this topic, we'll have the moderator of our next panel and last panel, Tian Lee of DeFi protocol Pendle, diving deep in a discussion with our panelist Oscar of Indodex from Indonesia, Jordan of Saibavo from Taiwan, and Tasha of Alpha Finance Labs from Thailand. Now over to you, Tian.
Hi, welcome to the third panel. I'm Tian, the moderator for today's session, titled From CeFi to DeFi. So if you have been dabbling in crypto for a while now, you would have known that CeFi and DeFi terms come out pretty frequently. So for the benefits of our audience today, CeFi is short for centralized finance and DeFi is short for decentralized finance. And even though they represent like financial products and instruments, the major distinction between CeFi and DeFi is the fact that DeFi is constructed on top of blockchain technology. Now today, for this panel, I really want to just dive deeper into the distinction and prospects of these two sectors. And then I wanted to also explore the propositions and challenges of each of these items before moving on to the trends and outlooks of CeFi and DeFi. Now, with us today are some of the most distinguished operators of very important products in the greater Southeast Asian region. So I really just, for now, I want to pass on the time to our guests to very quickly introduce themselves and the product that they're currently working on, starting with Jordan.
Thanks very much, Tian. Hi, everybody. Very nice to be here. My name is Jordan Forsman. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for a company called Saibavo. Saibavo fundamentally is a cybersecurity company. We're composed of a team of founders and technical folks that have been in cybersecurity for a very, very long time. And we've always been very interested in the blockchain, especially since its evolution over the last couple of years. What we deliver is a secure digital asset management platform. Essentially, it is an institutional wallet that allows our customers to effectively manage their digital assets on the blockchain. So anyone who wants to integrate with and build on the blockchain in a highly scalable fashion can leverage our solutions to do just that. Our co-founders are very well-known individuals here in the Taiwan cybersecurity scene. And between 2016 and 2018, they were called on many times by local cryptocurrency exchanges as well as law enforcement to help do forensic audits after these exchanges had been hacked and tens of millions of dollars worth of crypto had been stolen. And so they did this over and over and over again because there were so many hacks that they got exposed to so many different attack scenarios they finally decided the best way for them to help the industry was to use their combined, 100+ years in cybersecurity to build a robust private key management infrastructure. And that is what we have delivered today to the market. It's called Saibavo Vault. And it's really, it answers the fundamental question in terms of private key security is that there is, if we think about let's call it HSMs and so on, there's no separation of the rights to use the private keys from the responsibility of keeping the private keys secure. That's fine for individuals like you and me. We're responsible for our own funds, but when the organization owns the assets, it's a different story. Well, who holds the private key? Who's responsible for that? Well, typically in an organization, it is the executive, the C-level, the finance team, sometimes the legal team. They're responsible for approving transactions, but typically these people have no idea about cybersecurity, and in many cases don't even know what a private key is. And so they'll hand that responsibility over to the engineering, the cybersecurity, IT infrastructure teams, and say, okay, you guys deal with it, you keep it secure. But as soon as you do that, you give those individuals the potential to actually steal the company's funds. And actually 30% of cybersecurity incidents are perpetrated by trusted insiders. So that's a high enough percentage to warrant some kind of mitigating solutions. And that's ultimately what we deliver to the market today.
Thanks, Jordan. Oscar, would you be able to introduce yourself and the product that you're building?
Hello, Tian. Yes, thank you. So let me introduce myself. My name is Oscar Darmawan. I think I start in this crypto space at 2013 back then. We start our company name with the name Bitcoin Indonesia. But around 2016, we changed our brand, everything from Bitcoin Indonesia to Indodex, stands from Indonesia Digital Asset Exchange. So in Indonesia, basically, we try to put the infrastructure where people can buy and sell crypto more easy. And then we put the service around the exchange as well. So in Indodex, actually, people can get the liquidity and can use the API as well. And we also have quite a lot of experiment around DeFi. We do create one DeFi protocol through one of our research arm. And so far, Indodex have around 4.7 million registered members, with 99% is actually Indonesian. And our daily volume about 100 million to 200 million US dollars. So with our experience in 8 years, almost 8 years in this crypto space, we are very looking forward on the how the crypto space will be in the future, because we can see year by year the changes on the crypto happen, and it's getting more interesting and more interesting. Thank you.
All right, Tasha.
Great. Hi, my name is Tasha, and I'm co-founder and CEO of Alpha Finance Lab. We pretty much, I would say it's a bit unique comparing to other projects building things on Web3 or on blockchain, right? We started out from our belief that, cryptocurrency, blockchain, and Web3 will be here, and this is the early stage of that. So that's why we wanted to make sure we have the flexibility and innovative, stay innovative at all times, right? So hence we started out as a DeFi lab, pretty much focusing on all the product market fits and all the market gaps that we see, right? So now we have built 2 main DeFi products already called Alpha Homora, which is a lending and leverage yield farming product. The second product is Alpha X, which is a combination of options, futures, and leverage tokens combined. And we recreate all of those with a new concept called strike tokens. So all of these combined, we have, people using the products around the world, totaling about $1 billion of assets using these products. And a quick summary of, what we've done very, past few months as well is because the whole blockchain landscape has expanded a lot beyond DeFi, right? And we also want to make sure that we stay relevant and also grow with the growth industry. So we also expanded our product suite and our focus to also cover metaverse as well. We have a number of products in that area. We also have the Launchpad Incubator Program. This is a combination of accelerator and incubator program. So all in all, we have the arm that we build the products and the arm that we incubate new projects out.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Yeah, very, very exciting products that everyone here is building. Now, my first question is intended for Tasha. So DeFi is constantly promoted as the force for financial inclusions. So could you provide some concrete benefits of DeFi?
Yeah, I think if you're thinking from the user perspective, right, there are tons of benefits from having, no requirements on, what's the minimum assets you have to hold in order to use, whatever products, to how you want to use the products, right? And it's pretty much all open source. So if users want to see how the product is actually built, what are the different criteria, what are the different algorithms, you're like, feel free to check it out, as opposed to a black box and you don't know what the entity is doing with your money, right? So I think there are a lot of benefits from the user side. Of course, there are downsides as well. So definitely you need to make sure you know how to use MetaMask, or you need to understand the decentralization and everything, right? But I think once you get through that first hurdle, like all the benefits will be really much worth it. And I think from the developers and on the builders side, there are also a lot of benefits because all of these codes are open source, right? What that means is anyone can read and integrate with other products on blockchain very easily. So what that gives rise to is pretty much a very healthy competition, a lot of innovation in the space. And pretty much if your product is not staying relevant, or if there are some things that don't make sense, then people can build off and improve it, right? So at the end of the day, it's going to be a better product, a better industry for the mass, for the users as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest propositions of crypto is that it really reduces the barrier for users to participate in wealth generating avenues that were previously quite elusive to a lot of us. So, to follow up, Jordan, I understand that you have a product background, and your product background actually offers a very unique perspective of the relative promises of CeFi and DeFi. Now, I would like to understand a bit more, right? Like, what drew you to Saibavo, and what lessons do you think you could apply at Saibavo, and how do you see your own roles in the space?
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. Actually, I would say my background is more in cybersecurity, right? I've been in cybersecurity for 15 years. Saibavo is a cybersecurity company at the end of the day. My education is actually in economics, and that was hence my fascination with blockchain when I first learned about it. I was actually a customer of Saibavo's. That's how I first learned about them. I was building a cryptocurrency exchange from 2018 through 2020 at the time that I was there. And while we were building the team and trying to figure out the technology and trying to figure out exactly what our approach to this was, one of the big hurdles that we struggled with was, well, how do we adopt new chains onto our trading platform, new tokens, new currencies, very, very quickly? How do we handle very large number of users? We were expecting we were going to have 10,000 new users signing up every day. How would we manage that, right? And manage those deposits coming directly into our infrastructure and being notified when those deposits were happening on chain. How would we consolidate that liquidity so that we could make sure all of those funds would be available for our customers to withdraw funds on a 24/7 basis, so that they'd feel comfortable that their funds would always be available, and so on. And we really struggled with this because, as you know, blockchain engineering talent is not easy to find these days, and even back then. We really struggled with how are we going to answer all of these questions, right? How would we be compliant with AML regulations and do all of that? And we got introduced to the Saibavo team, and literally overnight they solved all of those questions for us. I was really impressed with the solution back then. We adopted it pretty quickly. Unfortunately, because we're also part of the Taiwan cybersecurity industry, we had the necessary insight into their private key management infrastructure and their architecture, and we looked at a lot of competing solutions from overseas. We looked at Ledger, we looked at BitGo, we looked at a whole bunch of them, and none of them suited our use case and our scenarios. So it was just win-win-win from us. I mean, they solved all our problems from a management perspective. They solved our security requirements in a way that we, as cybersecurity people, could understand. And then we knew the guys as well. So because Taiwan's cybersecurity industry is very, very small, right? So it was a win-win-win for us. And you know, unfortunately, my work at that company, you know, didn't continue. And I left the company in 2018. In 2020, I took a rest for a while, and actually our co-founder Paul eventually asked me to join. He'd known about my background in cybersecurity and you know how I built products that have been used by and currently are being used by 9 of the top 10 banks in the US, as well as 56 of the Fortune 100. So he really wanted me to join the team, and I knew the value of this company and the products that they'll be building. And so I thought, well, yeah, it's definitely a win-win for both of us. You know, if we can see if we can make it work, and you know, haven't looked back since I joined.
Yeah, thanks. Very fascinating. So, you know, like you mentioned something about regulatory exposure for a lot of these crypto operators. So, again, you know, just aside from this, right? What are some of the risks in crypto or DeFi in general that worries you? And you know, is it something to do with accountability?
Yeah, no, I think for DeFi, I mean, if we talk about DeFi specifically, I'm really not worried about specific risks. I don't think DeFi is under any pressure, and I think we're still in the very early days in terms of what's possible, right? The more I learn about DeFi and the more I understand, the more possibility I see for the adoption of these types of platforms, right? In terms of accountability, I think accountability is not the issue. You know, in terms of who do we hold responsible when things go wrong. The whole point of DeFi is to trust the protocol and not trust the people, right? If you want to start trusting the people, then you go back to CeFi, and you know there are people that will help you manage things and do things for you when things go wrong. The point of DeFi is to trust the protocol, and so the protocol is where the issues are. And for me, that's an educational issue, right? Because it's a cybersecurity issue, and that's ultimately what I do and what I've been doing for near 20 years. I think the biggest problems there are the users are not understanding the contracts that they're interacting with, and so they're getting caught out, whether it's rug pulls or front running or whatever the case is. The users are not educated enough in terms of is this really a safe product solution that I should be using, and they do bear some responsibility for doing that. But the other side of that is that the developers of a lot of these protocols don't know how to build secure contracts. There are a lot of folks that have come out of traditional finance, and they know how to build financial products, and they've learned Solidity, and they're slapping something together that quite frankly is just not good enough, right? And this is an old story. We saw it in Web 2.0. I spent 15 years selling a static source code analysis solution to help Web 2.0 developers build more secure applications. And we see the same problems repeating themselves in Web 3.0. So if we talk about smart contract security, right, you've got reentrancy attacks, you've got race conditions, you've got insufficient randomness being used, improper exception handling. These are all old problems that we've seen, popping their heads up over and over again. It's nothing new. The problem with DeFi and with the community is that we need more people to pay more attention to smart contract security, right? We need better security evangelizing, and we need education. We need more certification authorities, and they can be decentralized authorities. That's fine, but we need some folks putting a stamp on these protocols and these contracts and saying, yes, we've reviewed them, and they are secure. Just like we had the sort of certificate authorities, helping us with HTTPS and so on in the Web 2.0 world. We need better oversight. We need to implement secure development life cycles and best practices like that. And I think that's where the DeFi community has a lot of room to improve.
Yeah, thanks for the perspective, Jordan. Now, Oscar, as the leader of one of the largest crypto exchanges in Indonesia, you have an overview of both retail and institutional thinking on crypto, both CeFi and DeFi, right? Now, what do you think is your role, and what is your view of the promises and perils of crypto?
Actually, if we're talking about the regulatory framework in Indonesia, I think for the CeFi will have some space, but to be honest, for the DeFi, it will be a bit tough for Southeast Asia market, especially Indonesia, because as we know, the regulators in Southeast Asia is quite conventional, and DeFi basically is challenging the regulator itself. So even though I'm from the crypto space, and I don't see the DeFi will get some support from the regulators, and because of the nature of the population in Indonesia, when the regulators say no to the DeFi, then normally they will not really try on it in Indonesia. But I can see that there are getting more and more interest on the CeFi, especially because in Indonesia itself, the government start regulating CeFi. And I can see a lot of attraction that happening in Indonesia around in that space, and from the Indonesia as well. Actually, currently we also start to supporting CeFi, but even though the DeFi not really getting enough support, we still try to participate on some research, some experiment about it. But to be honest, actually, from the regulators' point of view, in Indonesian market, the CeFi will be more easier than DeFi.
Yeah, thanks for the perspective. I want to just turn back to Tasha, and as a DeFi operator at Alpha Finance, what regulatory developments do you see as the most significant or necessary if we want to foster responsible DeFi innovation?
Good question. And I think it's actually similar to what Jordan was saying, right? Like, I do think there has to be some sort of regulation or a standardized way of doing things. If not, it's going to be, a lot of rug pulls, these different things, right? However, I don't think it has to be as centralized as what we see in the current world, right? It can be, an association, it can be a DAO running that association, whoever misbehave in that DAO, get replaced whatsoever, right? But I think there has to be that some sort of a standardized way of, confirming that this has passed the standard of the industry to be applicable to use, right? And I think that's more of the regulatory side of things that I'm looking at. So that's more on the product and the tech side, right? In terms of, the financials part, the cryptocurrency part, I think that's really tough question, and I'm myself also really interested to see how it's going to play out, right? Because assuming that each country has its own regulations, that okay, this is how they're treating cryptocurrency, or not even cryptocurrency but DeFi, right? Like, this is how they're treating lending products, this is how they're treating decentralized exchanges, right? The question that I have though is how are they going to implement it? Because the teams are decentralized around the globe, the users are decentralized. Are you going to base the regulatory landscape on majority of where users are, or where majority of your team is? I think it's that pending question, and I think no one has the answer to, because it's a completely flip of how things work, which is super centralized. And yeah, we're yet to see on that front.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really, really difficult to answer right now, because I think the main challenge here is really the coordination between the different jurisdictions, right? Once you have one of these countries decided to, like, if any one of these countries decided to not comply with the standard that the other countries follow, then it creates an arbitrage opportunity, right, for all these protocols and operators to capitalize on. And everyone's just going to flock to this new, like, I don't know, like crypto capital or something. So I'm personally very fascinated by this topic and theme, because I think it's a matter of time before we start to see more forms of standardization, and who knows, like what we'll see. So
I think there is a precedent, if I may interject. There is a precedent,
of course,
that we can look to in history, right? If we look at the emergence of a company like Skype, right? Skype was very disruptive in terms of what it was delivering to the population. Was a P2P network of voice over internet protocol communications that was highly illegal in every country at the time, because you needed to have a telecommunications license in order to provide these types of services. However, it was a decentralized application because it was P2P running over a P2P protocol. So there was no single, I mean, there was a company, Skype, that you could take down, but there was no single centralized point, a set of servers that you could take down, and that was the end of Skype. And so, I mean, governments tried because it was a huge problem for a lot of governments that were listening on their citizens and wanting to know who was talking to who about what. But this gave them a way to completely bypass all of that, right? And so many governments actually tried to take down Skype and they failed because there was no single point of failure because it was a completely decentralized application. Large telecommunications companies like AT&T actually sued Skype in the US and lost. Right. So we do have a precedent in this. And if we look at Skype, it was the first of what we have now today, a host of P2P messaging apps from, Facebook Messenger to WhatsApp to Telegram to Signal, you name it. I mean, it's prolific. And technically, in many countries today, they're still all illegal, right? Because none of them have a communications license. So I see the same thing happening with DeFi, right? Yes, you can try to regulate it, but how are you going to enforce those regulations? It's nigh impossible. And so this is why, in my perspective, there's always going to be a place for CeFi, because CeFi is where you go if you want to operate in a strictly regulated environment where there is oversight by the government, where there is somebody you can go to when things go wrong and say, hey, you're responsible, right? But in terms of DeFi, the practical regulation of it, as Tasha has said, the teams are all over the world, right? In many cases, you don't even know who these people are. So how are you going to enforce anything? How are you going to prevent people from accessing these products and solutions and just, get them to not use it? It's impossible. And so I think we've already seen that happen before with Skype and with the emergence of these P2P messaging protocols. And I think DeFi is just going to go the same way.
Fair. That's a fair point. I wanted to, just go back to you, Jordan. Like DeFi is still small, but offers a potentially radical shakeup of our financial system. Now, do you think DeFi reflects a fundamental shift away from CeFi as we know it, or do you think it's just a high yield asset class?
Okay. Well, I certainly don't think of DeFi as an asset class. DeFi, and it's not so much a shakeup, but I would say rather an evolution of the financial ecosystem. The way I think about DeFi is that it's breaking down traditional barriers of, firstly, asymmetric access to information and capital, right? If you look at, for example, the insurance industry, we have a few major players in the insurance industry, and they have access to information silos about, risks, what particular risks are likely, unlikely, and then they control the pricing because of that. And essentially, we end up paying a lot more than we should. But with blockchain, everything is on the chain. All the data, all the information is available for all to see. So I could share my personal health information onto the blockchain. I could have a machine learning algorithm, do the actuarial science to figure out what is my particular risk, and then somebody could lay a bet on whether I'm going to fall sick in the next 6 months or not, right? And this is a much more efficient way of doing things, and it's totally open and it's totally accessible to anybody. Somebody who has no experience, again, assuming we have access to a machine learning algorithm that could figure this out, could suddenly become a well-informed insurance underwriter, right? And so that's what I see DeFi is doing, is it's breaking down these barriers to information and capital. And not necessarily shifting resources away from CeFi. As I said, there's always going to be a role for CeFi, but what it's doing is it's opening up opportunities for underserved markets, right? It's making finance more inclusive by making these products more available to a broader demographic. There's that aspect of it, but then also the other thing that Tasha alluded to earlier was this Lego block approach to DeFi, right? Which is very, very interesting. We can suddenly bundle multiple different DeFi products together, and now we have a new product, a new solution that's available on the market, and we can mix and match, as we see fit. So that is very, very exciting, and I think that's a fundamental shift. And then the final one is flash loans. Flash loans are an amazing thing. That is definitely something we've never seen before, and we've yet to see how that will really play out. But it's very exciting, to see.
Yeah, flash loan is pretty amazing innovation. So, Oscar, just one more question for you. So you briefly talked about the role of regulator in the space that you're currently operating. Now, also, if you could help us understand a bit more, like potentially what are some of the major challenges and maybe remedies that your business currently encounters?
I think one of the challenges about in my region is because the government is controlling the access of internet, not like the American where very easy to get access of any internet access. But in Indonesia, where the government not supporting any activity, they can very easily ban the access. It's true that people can access it through VPN. People can access it through proxy or any other ways, but it's still when the government not supporting the DeFi, we can see that many of the DeFi protocol and the website now getting banned from the government. So very hard for people in Indonesia getting access of it. But I still believe on the DeFi because I think all people in the crypto space always believe on the decentralization. So as well as me, I myself also believe on that. But getting the support from the government will be very tough, especially for a country like Indonesia, where Indonesia or Malaysia or Singapore, that we almost all country in Southeast Asia currently. For example, we are banning the decentralized exchange. The government actually banned quite a lot of decentralized exchange because of the AML risk, because of the some other risks. I think the DeFi will also facing the same thing on the Southeast Asia. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely something for it's quite a challenge that all of us as operators of cryptocurrency related protocols and blockchain protocols encounter. So I just want to spend the last few minutes that we have for this panel to talk about something other than the questions and the topics that we've talked about. So, as operators in the crypto space, we are probably quite familiar with the pace of innovation that the space offers. So I would like to hear from your perspective, right? What are some of the items or events or occasions that caught you by surprise in crypto that happened in like 2021? Starting with Tasha.
Yeah, I think for me it was when El Salvador adopted Bitcoin. I think it's a monumental moment. Definitely can see that happening, but did not expect it to be 2021, right? And I think that shift is a lot beyond more retail adopting, more institutions adopting, but it's the whole country adopting, right? And I think that whole event itself does not have it has a lot of ripple effects, right? Like what triggers other countries to think about similar countries with similar financial profile and similar economic profile, right? Have started to think about what are the possibilities. And I think that's a really monumental time for people in the space as well, because that just shows that there more of a new e-commerce joining the space, more education we have to do, more products we can build.
Sounds good. Jordan, what about you?
I'm struggling to actually think of an answer here. In terms of surprises, it's hard to get surprised by what's happening in the crypto space these days, because everything, as you say, it happens at a crazy pace, and you thought it was 5 years away, and suddenly 5 weeks later it's there. I think the biggest surprise actually has less to do with crypto, but it's directly impacted crypto, and this was obviously the Fed's response to COVID in 2020, and just printing ridiculous amounts of US dollars, right, and creating all of this inflationary pressure around the world, and obviously that has been good for crypto. I think it's created a lot of visibility for Bitcoin specifically, and provided a lot more interest, I think, from people to really understand this space now, because they're starting to realize that they desperately do need an alternative to the traditional financial infrastructure. Because if we leave it up to the politicians like in the US, they could just print everything out of existence. So having that alternative, I think it's become real for a lot of people in the last let's say 18 months. And that has been very good, because as we get more people participating in the industry, there will be more oversight, whether it comes from regulatory oversight from the government, which is good, and I do believe in that is completely necessary and 100% supportive of it. But we also need regulatory oversight from the community itself, building better products, building better standards, and adopting better solutions, and that will come when you have more eyeballs on the industry itself. So I think that's all very positive in the last sort of year and a half.
Sounds good. Let's hear it from you, Oscar. What is an event or an occasion that caught you by surprise in crypto this year?
I think when we're talking about crypto, I think it always makes us very surprised, because in crypto space, one month can seem like 1 year in other industry. So I think especially in this year, we can see that a lot of surprise happening. We see how the corona virus impact the price. Actually, in the starting of time of the corona getting corona in all the world, we can see the crypto price going down. I'm quite very disappointed, actually, to be honest, because I always thinking when the corona starting going up, the crypto price supposed to be going up, but it's going down. So I getting a bit not believe that crypto failed to become the safe haven asset class. But in the high of the corona, we can see that the crypto price picking up very high. So I getting my confidence back that the crypto is really the safe haven asset class.
Nice.
And for in the future, about the surprise that the crypto will give is very hard to predict. Right? So because as we know, 1 month in crypto is same like 1 year in other industry. I can see that in the next few months we will getting more into the metaverse. I think metaverse is something that's very interesting.
I think so.
And so that's why I'm really looking forward how the blockchain will reshape the Web3. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Like for me, it's really the fact that in the top 20 coins, we have 2 dog coins that have very, very minimal utility. So that's been pretty fascinating for me this year. But okay, so last question before we close off the panel. So, as operators of crypto, we are naturally quite familiar with memes. So again, I would like to hear from your perspective, what is your meme of the year? Starting with Tasha.
Yeah, and this is a hard one because crypto is a very meme-driven community. I would say I would have to go for the meme with a guy wearing a lot of gold blings, and then it says I'm in for the tech, right? And I think that says a lot about where we are now at the stage of the industry. A lot of people, majority of the people in the industry, are not in for the tech, right? But I think this has to happen, right? Like in my opinion, we need to go through this phase before getting mass adoption because it's a new industry, right? So if you look back, in the internet boom, 1990s, it's pretty similar, right? There are a lot of new products, new projects with very limited usages and everything. But that really much got a lot of adoption, and the few remaining builders just shape how the industry is going to look like. So yeah, that's my favorite meme.
That's a good one. Jordan, what do you think?
All of the El Salvador memes, I thought those were brilliant. I mean, there's so many of them. Just there's one. My favorite is a guy sitting in his car and he's banging the Bitcoin drum, and he's representing El Salvador. And there's a lady outside banging on the car window, shouting and screaming at him, and she's just got World Bank and IMF written on her face, and he's just banging away on the Bitcoin drum. So yeah, anything to do with El Salvador, they're all hilarious, and I love them. And as you say, that was, I think, a watershed moment for the industry. And we've seen a number of countries follow up from that. So yeah, and I think we'll see a lot more going forward into 2022.
Yeah, love the El Salvador meme series. It's always very refreshing to see how creative people can be. Yeah. Oscar, what's your pick?
Well, because I'm more into the crypto exchange guys, so the meme that I'm more like is about the situation of the Bitcoin in the last 3 months. So the meme is about people asking the Bitcoin to do something, and then after that the Bitcoin really do something, which is going down a lot. So yeah, the people is giving very sad face. So I think that's what people hope. That people always hope the Bitcoin going up and going up and up and never go down. But I think
up only.
Yeah, up only. But we need to know that whatever going up will always can go down. And actually, the correction is always good for the Bitcoin, because if it always going up, never go down, then when the bubble bursts, then it will become very bad. But if there is a correction, same like now, 20%, 30% is a healthy correction. Yeah. It's repeating and keep happening in the last 10 years, but people always feel disappointed every time that happens. Yeah. So I think our and the community need to be getting more experience about this cycle we keep continuing and repeating.
Yeah. Okay. For me, just to close it off, right? For me, the meme of the year is GM. I think GM is really very, very native to crypto. And if you mention GM, people will know that you belong to that crypto clan. But anyhow, I really appreciate that that you take the time to have a chat and participate in this panel. We have come to the end of this session, and I certainly hope that you've enjoyed the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, Tien, and our panelists, Oscar, Jordan, and Tasha. The idea of crypto-based finance, whether that's centralized or decentralized, is surely incredibly provocative. DeFi in particular seems to be in the very, very early innings, with every function of a bank now seemingly being replicated in a decentralized world, which presents a very interesting opportunity in a region like Southeast Asia, where banking penetration is quite low. So I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone attending here when I say that I'm super excited to see how the space will develop. All right, well, that wraps up the last of our panel. Thanks to all participants who stayed on till the end. Hopefully you were able to take away a learning or two over the course of tonight's event. If nothing else, just know that Web3 is real and is here to stay, and may very well become bigger than Web2 over the next 5 to 10 years, especially here in GSEA, where there are still many glaring gaps in everyday needs that may more effectively be solved now with Web3 technology. And for any founders out there working with blockchain, DeFi, NFTs, and are looking to join one of the strongest Web3 founder communities in the region, AppWorks Accelerator is still accepting applications for batch number 24. You can scan the QR code to my right here, or access the application on our website at appworks.tw/accelerator. If you enjoyed the content and interactions tonight, be sure to follow us on all of our socials, including LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook for continued updates. Thanks for tuning in tonight, everyone. We'll see you next time.